Welcome to the In My Opinion Show with Ronald Barry Robinson and friends. With us, we have Mr. Richard Dix Jr.
Good evening.
and we have Mr. Henry Hatter.
Good morning,
Welcome
Ron.
all to the In My Opinion Show. Mr. Hatter,
Yes, sir.
as the host of the In My Opinion Show, what plans do the Republican Party have or are presently engaged in to regain the White House and Congress in upcoming elections?
Well, Mr. Host, you know all politics are basically local. Okay, so you've got to start locally first. And the local party has some strategies that they've begun that will enable the president within 4 to 8 years at the Republican Party to generate the enthusiasm, identify the right candidate that people will vote for in the Republican Party. But first of all, we have to build those millions of little cells throughout the United States made up of just common people, like 3 or 4 people here and 9 or 10 there throughout the United States. It's called cells that get together and talk about the strategy for building confidence and a platform to run the president in the future. Now, locally, what we're doing is that the party will not concede anymore the city government to the Democrats. They will, because I think over the past 30 years, Republicans have withdrawn from city politics, thinking that it was a given for Democrats. But therefore, they may have let the city government go to seed because they self-withdrew themselves. Now they're going to go back and engage in that process. They're going to run for city council. They're going to run for the board of commissioners. They're going to run for the various seats of government, like for example the register of deeds and so on and so forth. In a meaningful way, they're going to build. They're going to build momentum from the ground up, and this is going to be a great adventure for them. And they're going to request that there be individuals appointed to positions of responsibility as the city charter does require. You know, when you have candidates out there running for mayor as a Democrat, that's a no-no because the charter prohibits that. It's a nonpartisan position. The mayorship of the city of Flint is nonpartisan. And I'm sure you're looking at me as if you're surprised.
No, I'm not.
But, and so, and I think because Republicans have withdrawn themselves from engagement in the process, they've also become your enemies of those who would govern the city. And what the leadership does, we hope that the new mayor now will help to bring Republicans into that fold so that they have a basis of helping to bring back the city, to help to bring back public policy in this area, and help to give balance to public policy throughout the United States. You know, the Republicans lost many, many seats, if not all of the seats, at state boards. They lost the Supreme Court, they lost the Board of Education.
Well, that's indicative around the country.
Yeah. And so that just shows you the kind of situation that we're in. And you don't just build from the top down. You have to build from the bottom up. You have to get people involved. And I think, and Democrats by themselves, just due to attrition, in about 8 years, they will self-destruct because they can't live with success any more than the Republicans can over long periods of time.
Is that why they lost so badly in the 2008 election?
No, that isn't. They just didn't get the support. You know, now consider. Now we've had these discussions before. I think that many people are upset because the Republicans did not vote for the first stimulus package in the House, if you recall that, because we did talk about it. And I believe the Republicans, for good cause, did not vote for the first stimulus package. It didn't have enough money poured into the business side of the stimulus plan. and a lot to public jobs and stuff like that. But it's that public, the money poured into the public infrastructure sector that's not going to produce jobs that create wealth for this country. Only industries can create wealth for the country.
You know, I've been hearing that same line for the last 8, 12 years. Only industry, you know what I mean, can create jobs. But look at the nation, all right? These corporations aren't passing any of this down. This trickle down shit doesn't work, okay? It's got to, as Barack Obama said, we've got to start from the bottom and start working up because greed has just taken over any kind of common sense up at the top.
Well, you didn't let me get to that yet. You cut me off at the pass.
Go right ahead, sir.
Well, and you're right. I think that the corporations, first of all, Congress back in 1789 gave the authority to create business to build wealth for the nation. And that worked well for 100, 200 years. Mm-hmm. And we moved from almost no wealth at all to become the most wealthiest country in the world. And by the way, and of course, government had a kind of a laissez-faire approach to businesses. They let them run that business as they saw fit. That's fine. But what we've seen over the past several years is that there were many abuses in corporations. And corporations take public resources and convert them into wealth. Well, the resources belong to the people. And therefore, there needs to be some regulation of how those resources are used.
Absolutely.
And I think that this is what Barack Obama is saying. But not to take over industry, because you want industry to be independent of government, because it knows how to create wealth better than government does. And I don't want to get off on that, because I know that my points here are to find out how the Republicans will get themselves re-implemented back into the White House. And that's just a natural. That will occur very naturally. And as you know, Barack Obama has Republicans on his side right now. About 23% of those who voted for Barack Obama are Republicans. We're hoping that Democrats will switch over like they did in 1980 for Ronald Reagan. We had the Reagan Democrats. Well, here, Barack Obama has the Reagan Republicans. And they'll probably come home at some time. But that's a great experience. And he should have if he uses his sophisticated mind well, he should do well. But if not, and he's got to really cut back on the spending. He's got to pour more money into that private sector to generate jobs. Because if not, in 2 or 3 years, he doesn't do that, the Republicans will be back in 3 years from now.
What's
He's
your
got to
thoughts?
do well.
What's your thoughts, Richard?
It's idealistic for a Republican to support the platform, and I applaud Henry for his consistency. However, the Republican Party is really suffering from an infighting, consistent degrading one another, and I think James Carville, Democratic strategist, really called it the way I would see it, and that is if you are opposed to any policy or differences with the president, they refer to another Republican who may vote with the president or assist him as a heretic, and as opposed to a convert. And this has really led to the belief that the Republican Party is known as the party of no to everything. So they begin to get together in various forms. They've kicked off a campaign in Virginia with the resurge of arrogance, to validate their no's, no to restructuring Wall Street, no to restructuring the banks and the financial markets, no to the auto industry, no to bringing green jobs with wind, solar, power, fuel cells, no to continuing the use of and using naturopathic medicines, no to organic gardening. They're just a party of no to everything, no to people sharing in the wealth, just no, and no more. And their interest is to maintain that base by saying no. And they can't identify who's the leader, whether it's Rush Limbaugh or Sarah Palin, and they continue to fall on their backs because the people are hurting. It is the Americans are overwhelmingly are injured. They are incapacitated. Just today, the state of Michigan has announced that they're going to be cutting some $300 million out of the state budget because they don't have the money and federal funds are not coming in, which is going to be really catastrophic for this region. One is because they're going to lay off a number of state employees, and I got to say that I'm probably one of them. But that's okay. You drop me off in the jungle, and I'll find a way back. So the interest is that the Republicans have to look at that this no model is not working, and they're going to have to come up with a plan. And to this day, they do not have a plan. They're just simply waging war against Democrats, and this is what contributed to Arlen Specter defecting. And he realized that his base it has increasingly become Democratic, and they said, "Hey, look, we're going to oppose you." And so he said, before that happened, I'll look at the Democratic Party and support him. Now, maybe all of his votes won't go that way, but I'll tell you what, there's going to be more like him that's going to come this way, especially during election time. The organization for the Obama administration has grown increasingly, and we're going to see a fantastic race. And like heavyweight champions, the Democratic Party is really rising to the occasion, and they're going to knock more people off. So I'm looking forward to more seats being vacated, and they may be a blank check. But let's see what he does with that blank check, because if he's not looking at areas where he can increase the lives and reduce the welfare rolls, then I'm opposed to some of the policies that he may even represent. I think he need to focus on restructuring welfare. I think he needs to focus on, and these are some of the Republican agendas that they certainly need to talk about, but that's going to be timing too, because right now there's more people getting on the rolls and not enough individuals that are having jobs. So they're in a conundrum, and they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do and really identify who they are with an idea of inclusion and not excluding others as they have been in the past with this good old boy network.
You know, that's rather an interesting diatribe. But we have never seen moving out of a presidential election where the party in power did not lose seats in the next election. That will continue to happen. People just say, I've seen enough and I'm going to shift. And so the country is stabilized by this process. That happened even with the Republicans, and that will happen with Barack Obama too. And I think that you give an aura of disillusion about how strong Barack Obama is. That should be guarded, because people are digging the foundation from under him as we are speaking right now. You don't like his position on the amount of money that we're spending.
All right. Well, how do you
where
argue?
where that money is spending, and how we're going to pay back the money, and how we're going to reestablish ourselves among world nations, being as poor as we are, or with absolute no reserves in banks.
Sure.
We ought to be. The Republicans are saying we ought to be saving money, not spending it.
Well,
See, the Democrats say, so let's go out and spend the money now. Let's put people back to work. Give a little bit to everybody. just melt down everything so that we will all live in misery.
Yeah. Well,
But the Republicans are saying no. Let us sacrifice. Let us to bring ourselves out of the hole that we're in. We all need to sacrifice.
Did that include the $10 billion a month that went to Iraq? Were they sacrificing then when the Bush administration just continued to write the checks and money just was everywhere? And where was the sacrifice then? Because I was concerned, and I think that's an age-old argument that the Republicans have consistently used, that have been working with the American people, and for some reason the psychic was broken when the pockets have become noticeably empty, and I think it's clear that if they're going to be the party of the people or the party of Lincoln, they're going to have to get back to the some of the real conservative and fiscal conservative ideas, because I support private enterprise, I support individual businesses, I support business owner. I would go as far as say my grandfather was a Republican, and it's not a bad party, but the party has become bad, and I think it's become so intrinsic with Dixiecrats and individuals who are aspiring to be the David Dukes of America. And by the way, this Republican Party has tried everything, including use of stealing votes, and I mean they've really brought the party to an all-time low, and now they're trying to rebuild it, and they should rebuild it, but they're going to have to be more inclusive and less divisive in their language, such as calling individuals liberals because they tend to focus on helping individual people.
What's wrong with that?
Well,
you're either on one side of the spectrum or the other. One is conservative, one is liberal. What's wrong with that?
Well,
you call another person conservative, is that a bad name?
Well,
no.
it is, because ultra conservatives are really racist. Yeah, sure. And
you have many in the Democratic Party.
Well, you do,
Yes,
and you have some of
okay.
those. You have some in Democratic Party that are in those clothes too. But we have to be able to identify these individuals. We have to notice that during this period in which Republicans have went on the attack, we've noticed, and I want to speak from an understanding that hate crimes and more importantly, conservative right-wing organizations have grown dramatically, increased just tenfold since the Obama administration has taken office. And what the concern is that the Republicans are not saying, hey, look, we have to come together as a country and not use these divisive right-wing groups to promote the Palins or promote the Mitt Romneys.
Palin has nothing to do with it. Palin is not necessarily racist.
No, I never said that.
She's not a right-wing anything. She's a candidate for the President of the United States.
You've declared it?
And no, she was. She may be. Let me say it like that. But you can't say all of a sudden like that the Republican Party can reject anybody who wants to run on this platform. If the Democrats or Dixiecrats or the whoever they are, the David Dukes want to run on the Republican platform, they can do that. It's a free America. That's what makes it America. Even you can run, Iran can run, anybody can run.
Yes.
So we can't exclude them. You may be able to do that in the Democrat Party, but you cannot do that in the Republican Party.
Yeah.
People take choices. And it was the Dixiecrats who decided to come over to the Republican Party. It was not an invitation by Republicans, but it was the right of these people to shift parties.
This
So
is the
just
party
like
of
Arlen-
Strom Thurmond. This is the party.
And that's the party of Strom.
Absolutely. And we know
and
his
that's okay. And that's what he also had a daughter
Bless him.
that we would recognize, wouldn't we?
Yeah, bless him and rest his soul. though.
But and you can, I don't think that you can use any of these things to label the Republican Party.
Sure.
I don't think that Republicans go around labeling Democrats in the same way. Because
You
have that
identify the
same
sheep
right.
by the words that they speak. See, the Republicans have clearly shown in their language who they are, and they continue to strip the party down with the language that they choose. I would be really supportive of any Republican. In fact, I voted Republican
A
before.
lot of people say that, and we don't believe them.
No,
The records don't.
I
show
certainly
it anyway.
vote Republican, but
And let me tell you, you know what? In the last 40 years,
Mm-hmm.
Republicans have had the White House 75% of the time.
Sure.
Now, if language is a barrier, why don't the American people reject the Republicans?
They did overwhelmingly in 2000.
Yeah, but that was 2000.
And wait, 2008 of November.
Yeah.
They rejected soundly and with one voice and one mighty wind. They blew them out of the White House. They blew them out of the party seats. And now they're suffering and whimpering and they're running around licking their wounds.
No, the Democrat Party is just the averaging. Once in a while, statistics show us, as you look at probability, that they somewhere you hit that. It's like, well, you're going to be a winner.
Right.
The Republicans have a chance to come back and for 14.
It won't happen.
12 and then 16.
It won't happen.
But that's what all people say. That I believe Republicans said, no, the Democrats won't win.
Well,
Those are things that politicians talk, and nobody else believes them.
I guess I'll say this, and some things I agree with you on, and I do believe that you are soundly a person as a Republican, and I'd vote for you because I believe
Thank
you have the
you.
best heart, the interest. But I will say that as we look at the ground game of the Barack Obama, the president, I believe that he has really organized America in a way, not just through the internet, but the World Wide Web, and certainly through continuous campaigning, he has maintained a sophisticated machine. And in order for the Republicans to become more effective, they're going to have to find out how to neutralize that machine, because right now that machine has stabilized where it has a base that is absolutely astronomical. And in order to neutralize them, they're going to have to find out how to get some of these young people back involved.
Well, I don't want to hurt your statistics here,
Yeah,
but if you take a look at, just consider this:
sure.
African Americans are 14% of the population. Republicans, 23% of the Republicans voted for Barack Obama.
Okay.
Now, 23% of a bigger group voted for Barack Obama than 14% of a smaller group.
Right.
Who do you think gave the most votes?
The disillusioned Republicans.
Okay.
And they were disillusioned. They really
Yeah, I
were
want to know.
disillusioned
Thank
that
you.
they were Republicans. They thought they were Republicans.
The end of subject.
There was one individual, and I'll say this: there was one individual that approached a billionaire, and he was considered himself a Republican. And that billionaire asked that particular Republican, he says, "How much do you make?" And the Republican says, "I make $60,000." He says, "You're not a Republican. You can't possibly be one because you don't have enough money." And that was coming from a billionaire. So I want to say that
billionaire.
yeah, absolutely. I want to say that individuals who are considering to be Republicans, they first need to check their pocketbooks, because if they're not in the $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 realm, they're certainly not Republicans. They're probably disillusioned about the ideas. Maybe they tack onto abortion. That might be attractive. Perhaps they're attracted to private business owner. That's attractive, entrepreneurship. But when it comes to the overall message, and that is money, they're not Republicans.
Oh, I love this conversation. You know, one person by himself cannot define a trend. Now, maybe in the Democrats, among Democrats, they can do that.
Sure.
But it takes people collectively to decide a course of action. And it takes all of the Republicans. All Republicans are not rich. Some Republicans probably are at minimum wage.
They're not
They
Republicans.
yes, they are.
They think they are.
No, what makes the difference between the Republican and the Democrat? What makes the difference?
Well, the difference is those who have money
No, it isn't.
and those who
No,
don't.
it's the platform. It's the platform.
Exactly. And
No,
Bush
the
said it
platform-
better. The president said it better. He said he represents the party of haves and not the have-nots. And those who have, that's his base. And he said that in a
Okay.
forum. And I think you recall that.
That was kind of funny, I thought.
You know,
Well,
wow, I'm just been
look.
awed by this wealth of knowledge. I've been just like tongue-tied in a sense, We're going to go to a lighter subject here. Um, Although it's very interesting, I hope you viewers were entertained because it's basically the truth. A young doctor had moved out to a small community to replace a doctor who was retiring. The older gent suggested the young one accompany him on his rounds so the community could become used to the new doctor. At the first house, the woman complained, "I've been a little sick to my stomach." The older doctor said, "Well, you've probably been overdoing the fresh fruit. Why not cut back on the amount you've been eating and see if that does the trick?" As they left, the younger man said, "You didn't even examine that woman. How'd you come to your diagnosis so quickly?" "I didn't have to. You noticed I dropped my stethoscope on the floor in there. When I bent over to pick it up, I noticed a half dozen banana peels in the trash. That was what was probably making her sick." "Huh," the young doctor said. "Pretty sneaky. I think I'll try that at the next house." Arriving at the next house, they spent several minutes talking with another woman. She complained that she just didn't have the energy she once did. "I'm feeling terribly run down lately." "You've probably been doing too much work for the church," the younger doctor told her. "Perhaps you should cut back a bit and see if that helps." As they left, the elder doctor said, Your diagnosis is almost certainly correct, but how did you arrive at it?" "Well, just like you at the last house, I dropped my stethoscope. When I bent down to retrieve it, I noticed a preacher under the bed." To respond, please go to flinttalk.com. flinttalkradio.com, or, in my opinion, RBR at AOL.com, or, in my opinion, RBR at ATT.net. This is